colors.
Order. Home.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts reward were so gallantly gleaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I have a confession that I need to make to you all. As a young person, when I was in school, as you are now, I misunderstood the meaning of this day. I looked around me each year and I saw parades filled with flags and banners and soldiers and guns, and I thought this day was somehow about war. Maybe some of you might have made a similar perception. If you come into our lobby, you can see in our cases helmets and uniforms and even a gas mask. And it's easy to mistake that today may be an observation of war. But as I grew older, I realized how mistaken I was. I had the opportunity to meet many people who had served in wars, and I never met one of them who believed that the serving in the war was about war. It was always about peace and their yearning for peace in our country and throughout the world. Veterans Day began many years ago at the end of one of the great tragedies that befell our world, World War I. At that time, it was called Armistice Day, and it was named after the armistice, which was a peace treaty that was signed at that time at the end of the war. And at that time, people believed that World War I was the war to end all wars. On November 1919, President Wilson introduced the first Armistice Day celebration as the opportunity for America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations. The Senate's proclamation that proclaimed that day the celebration said, "Whereas it is fitting that the recurring anniversary of this date shall be commemorated with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between peoples." Unfortunately, the war to end all wars was not the war that ended all wars. We're still waiting for that day. And so after World War II and the Korean War, Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day. We are so thankful to have the opportunity to celebrate with all of you. And it is important that we take away from the celebrations of this day the understanding that world peace begins with each and every one of us in our interactions with those around us. So once again, I want to thank you, our veterans who are here today. You are a subset of a much larger group of veterans that are part of our Sizer family, and that is only a subgroup of the much larger number of veterans, millions of people who have served our nation. Thank you very much for your service.
I'd like to first thank every veteran for their service and sacrifice for our country. And I'm going to be brief. I'm going to make one comment, one observation. My observation is about those veterans returning from our two most recent wars. Oftentimes you hear the term that we owe them a debt of gratitude. Well, I think we owe them much more than gratitude. We owe them good health service at the veterans' hospitals. We owe them more funding for education. We owe them more training and more jobs. That's the debt that we owe to those veterans. Thank you.
Today I'll be reciting a poem, The Best on Earth, a Veterans Day Tribute by Joanna Fuchs. If someone has done military service, they earn the title veteran and more. They earn our deep respect and admiration. That they are special, no one can ignore. They sacrifice the comforts we enjoy. The list is long of all the things they gave. Our veterans are extraordinary people. They're loyal, dedicated, true, and brave. When terror and invasion were real threats, they showed us they could handle any storm. We owe our freedom in our very lives to our veterans who served in uniform. Our veterans should be celebrities. They're exceptional. No other group compares. We're grateful for many things they've done. They're always in our hearts and in our prayers. We are our veterans' support and friendship. Let no one ever question what they're worth. These men and women served us and our country. Our veterans, the very best on earth.
Dear James Albert Doolittle, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being my friend, my grandfather, and my hero. Thank you for risking your life for our freedom, and thank you for supporting me in everything I do. I'm here to share your amazing story because I feel you deserve all of the honor and respect in the world. On June 27, 1963, he enlisted into the Navy at only 17 years old. He was sent to Boston, and there was a ceremony for all of the enlisters. He was then sent to Great Lake, Illinois, to start training in boot camp. He still remembers his drill sergeant's name, First Class Burger. He did very well in boot camp and even became a battalion leader. It was a big deal for him because he got to lead a group on his own. When training was complete, he went to fight in the Vietnam War. He traveled to San Francisco and then was stationed on the aircraft carrier USS Midway in the Tonkin Gulf in Vietnam. He was a plane captain in charge of all of the aircrafts. He was the one to inspect the planes and stop the pilots in when they were ready for takeoff. Some of the memories he had of Vietnam was witnessing planes crashing as they returned from a mission. Yes, these were horrid memories from Vietnam, but he also shared with me some really nice memories. While in Asia, he visited the ports in Japan. He also got to sightsee on his leaves. He traveled to the Philippines, Hawaii, Japan, and almost made it to Australia, but his ship was needed for a special mission and they turned around. While he was away, he kept in touch with his family through letters. He said he was so excited when he got mail because he loved hearing from everyone. There were many men and not nearly enough space to sleep. While on duty, he was under a lot of stress. Working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week wasn't exactly soothing for him. On September 21st, 1967, he was discharged from the Navy. He was awarded the Vietnam Service Medal and the National Defense Medal. In 1968, he married my grandmother, and they have been married for over 47 years. My grandfather is one of the most kindest, bravest people I know. And once again, I just wanted to say thank you, and I love you with all of my heart. Always and forever, your biggest fan, Madeline Boyer.
It's such an honor for me to stand here year after year in my district and really see the number of veterans that we have throughout the district I represent. And I respect the fact that today is the day that we honor all of our veterans. And I really want to wish my favorite veteran a happy Veterans Day, my grandfather who couldn't be here today, who was a member of the Navy. And really talking to him, I really get to understand you come back from your respective time in the service, and with that you bring some of the scars, whether they be emotional or physical. And as Councillor Hay and as the Mayor said here today, it's incumbent upon us in here in Massachusetts to really provide the services necessary for our veterans when they're returning, especially for the most recent conflicts that we've had. The number of veterans that I meet day in and day out who are suffering from PTSD, who are suffering from addiction, they really need to get back on their feet. They really need to be able to lean on us as we have leaned on them for so long to get the services that they need. And I think from the Massachusetts State Senate, we have made it a priority to take care of our veterans and try to improve the lives each and every year that we possibly can. So today, as we celebrate Veterans Day and we thank you for all your service, please know that your service does not go unnoticed each and every day of our year, not just Veterans Day. And we thank you so many times and in so many ways for the selfless acts that you've given and for really taking on our freedoms and making sure that we're here and we're able to be free. So thank you so much on behalf of the Massachusetts State Senate.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, my brothers and sisters, veterans, ladies and gentlemen. And I also wish to thank Mayor Lisa Wong, Mayor-elect Stephen DiNatale, members of the City Council, and Director of Veteran Services, Michelle Marino, for inviting me to be your keynote speaker today. It is an honor and a privilege to share with you some of my thoughts and reflections on Veterans Day. It has been 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. On April 30th, 1975, and of the 58,220 veterans' deaths that have been attributed to this conflict. I recall back in 1963 through 1966, when I was still in high school, I would be listening to the morning news on the radio just before I'd walk to my high school. I would hear Walter Cronkite talk about the Vietnam War, some of the hard-fought battles, and of the ever-increasing number of U.S. casualties that ended in death. The deaths of young American soldiers touched many communities around the U.S. Just in my neighborhood in Chula Vista, two of my childhood friends, Mike Rambler and Richard Sykes, were among the many casualties of the war. In 1962, my brother was drafted into the U.S. Army and became an infantry paratrooper and was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. In 1964, he was selected to attend Officer Candidate School and became an infantry officer and military police officer. In 1966, my brother became an Army aviator and learned how to fly the L-19 Bird Dog and became a forward air observer. In September of 1967, I had joined the U.S. Army Security Agency, which is ASA, and was sent to Fort Ord, California for basic training. In October of 1967, my brother had received orders to signing him to Vietnam. My folks were driving my brother to San Francisco to catch his flight to Vietnam, and they were able to stop by Fort Ord to visit me. That was the last time I ever saw my brother. He was assigned to the 203rd Air Reconnaissance Company in Cam Ranh Bay, South Vietnam. After basic training, I was sent to Fort Devens on November 17th, 1967. It was knee-deep in snow. What a shock that was to a California kid. While awaiting for my top-secret security clearance to be approved, I was being trained as a Morse code intercept operator, MOS 05H. And during my training, I'd received an occasional letter from my brother telling me about his flying adventures. In one of his letters, He told me about how he had his flight mechanic install 6 3.5 rocket launchers, the old bazookas, on 3 on each wing of that unarmed airplane. The L-19 is just an unarmed 2-seat fixed-wing aircraft, similar to a 2-seat Piper Cub. He said he had a lanyard tied to each one of the trigger mechanisms, and he'd run the strings on the inside of his airplane so that as he would spot the enemy, he would pull these lanyards marking their location. He and his backseater or other observer, they also had to use 3 flak jackets, one to put on the floor of the airplane, one to sit on, and one to wear. Otherwise, they had no protection whatsoever. He also said that they also carried each a Thompson submachine gun as their only armament, besides the rocket launchers, which were primarily used for marking, smoke areas. Sometimes he'd also said he carried a box of fragmentary hand grenades, and they would just drop them out the window to harass the enemy. This airplane flies very close, treetop level. Very dangerous job. Then during the second week of April 1968, while I was in Morse code training class and trying to build up my speed in order to, or my ability to copy Morse code at 18 groups per minute, I was called into the front office, and I was very excited, as I thought I had passed the speed requirement. Then I was told to report immediately to the company commander. When I reported as ordered, I was told to sit down. The CO told me that my brother, Captain Raymond O. Kincannon, was killed in action due to small arms fire in April 1st, 1968, in the Cam Ranh Bay area. His body was later recovered and was sent home in a sealed coffin. My brother was just 24 years old, and he'd only been in the country 6 months. Excuse me. As a result of my brother's death, I was declared the sole surviving son in my family, and therefore I was never sent to Vietnam. But my first overseas assignment, I was sent to Sinop, Turkey, up in the northeastern part of Turkey, right underneath the nose of the Soviet Union, where I was part of a intelligence collection facility, eavesdropping on the Soviets' missile and space program. Later on, after a tour of duty at Fort Devens, I was also sent to Udorn, Thailand, which is about 100 aeronautical miles from Hanoi. And I was assigned to a unit called the 7th Radio Research Field Station, where my unit was tasked with collecting signals intelligence against the North Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, and the Chinese Communists operating within Southeast Asia. During my tour of duty at the 7th Radio Research Field Station, I met a communications security, or ComSec specialist, who had told me that when he was stationed at Cam Ranh Bay, he said he had remembered hearing my brother's Mayday distress call, that he was hit and was going down. So when I often think, knowing my brother, and when I often think about him and reflect on what happened to my brother and how he died, I like to think of that as he was wounded and his plane was going down in flames, that he was blazing away with his submachine gun at the enemy. Excuse me. I'm sure that each one of us has lost a friend, a family member, or has suffered an injury in a military conflict. And each has a meaningful story to tell. 50 years is still a relatively short period of time since the end of the Vietnam War on April 30th, 1975. In closing, I wish to leave you with this sagacious quote by Nicholas Mickelson. They say the passage of time will heal all wounds, but the greater loss, the deeper the cut, and the more difficult the process to become whole again. The pain may fade, but the scars serve as a reminder of our suffering and make the bearer all the more resolved never to be wounded again. So as the time moves along, we get lost in the distractions, act out in frustration, react with aggression, given to anger, and all the while we plot and plan as we wait to gain or to grow stronger. And before we know it, the time passes. We are healed. We are ready to begin anew. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless the United States.
Hello, my name is Samantha Jean, and this is my first year at Sizer. I'm in 8th grade, and I'd like to take the opportunity to thank two special people in my life. I'm so happy that my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother are able to be here at Sizer today. My great-grandfather was born on January 26, 1924. He's 91 years old. My great-grandmother was born on November 26, 1926, and is 89 years old. They served in World War II and were stationed at Solomon Islands and Russell Islands. My great-grandfather was a sonarm in the Navy. My great-grandmother was a nurse in the Navy. The cool thing is that they met during the war and got married in June 1948. They have been happily married for 57 years. Thank you, Pop and Gran, our most veterans, for being here today and for serving our country. Have a great day. Love you.
It's a pleasure to be here today, in my 8th and final year as your mayor, to bring you greetings on behalf of the city of Fitchburg on this Veterans Day. We're gathered here to honor our veterans, but also to pray for those who are currently serving. I have always loved and been so proud of being part of this Fitchburg family who honors our veterans. But most recently, I've been blessed to be part of a military family. A year ago, last November, my husband and I were honored to go to the graduation of our son Nicholas from the Marines. And last month, our son Nathan graduated from the Marines. So I want to echo what our city council president said about more support needed for our veterans, not just those who are returning, but also those who have served our country. Thank you, all of you, and happy Veterans Day.
I bring you greetings from the Commonwealth, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Take this opportunity to cite some of the advances that we've made in the House of Representatives, most recently as last week. We gather as a Commonwealth and a grateful nation to honor all our veterans, the men and women who have made possible the freedoms and liberties that we have today. The title veteran is endowed by a grateful nation on citizens whose shoulders were broad enough to carry the weight of our common defense. It is a title that speaks of courage and sacrifice in the face of mortal danger. And it is a title that speaks of compassion and heartbreak in the wake of the terrible cost. The title veteran speaks of love of country and of a belief in America's goodness and our strength. It is our obligation to thank our living veterans for their dedication and loyal service to our great country. I'm extremely proud that Massachusetts ranks first in the nation when it comes to military benefit programs and services. Thank you. Recently, the House of Representatives passed the Stolen Valor Act. It is disheartening to see people put on a uniform and pretend to be a veteran when there are men and women who risk their lives every day for our country. This bill criminalizes falsely representing oneself as a military person, a veteran or recipient of specific military honors. The House also passed bills related to stealing, damaging, or desecrating veterans' graves and inappropriately removing commemorative grave markers. We gather on Veterans Day to send a clear message to ensure our veterans and their families that we deeply appreciate the sacrifices that they have made in their lives for our freedoms, and that we will continue to support them both abroad and at home. God bless all our veterans, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
On behalf of the veterans of Fitchburg, I am honored to present this plaque for your dedication and concern for the veterans of Fitchburg. Not only for your concern and your dedication to that, but we go above and beyond with founding the Fitchburg Veterans, Friends of the Fitchburg Veterans, Friends of the Fitchburg Veterans Organization, also organizing the first 5K run on Patriots Day in this city. You are an example to all commissioners and the United States Army.
I've been with the city for over 4 years, and this is the first time I've gotten up and done this. I don't do what I do for things like this. I do what I do because I love the veterans. It's my way of giving back, and hopefully I'll be able to keep doing what I do for many more years to come. And I want to thank all of you for coming, because if it wasn't for you, the support of the veterans wouldn't be as wonderful as it is. Thank you.
Freedom is not free. We recognize that without your sacrifices and willingness to defend our country and our people, we would not be afforded all of the comforts that we experience. Thank you, veterans of the U.S. Forces. Adapted from the lyrics of an iconic song, you raise us up so we can stand on mountains. You raise us up to walk on stormy seas. We are strong because we're on your shoulders. You raised us up to more than we can be. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Jillian Moore, performing a contemporary solo to Josh Groban's You Raise Me Up.
You